Title: The Secret in the Firepit, Shocking Truth Behind a Family's Dark Cover-Up, True Crime Mystery Series, 2025. The Call That Broke the Silence. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want more true stories that'll leave your heart pounding and your mind racing. Every week, we uncover the truth behind the crimes people thought they could hide forever. The phone call came at 11:47 p.m. A trembling voice, a calm dispatcher, and then a sentence that would change everything. "Hi, this is Jennifer Gledel. My husband's missing." At first, it sounded like a routine missing persons report. A husband who hadn't come home. A worried wife calling late into the night. But when investigators played that call back later, they noticed something unsettling. Jennifer never once said the words, "I'm worried." She only said, "He's gone." That tone, flat, almost rehearsed, would become the first red flag in what Utah police would later describe as one of the most chilling domestic crime cases in state history. Jennifer and her husband, Matthew Johnson, looked like the kind of couple you'd see in a family magazine. $1 million home in Cottonwood Heights. 3 children. Barbecues in the backyard. He was a Green Beret, disciplined, admired, the type of man who stood up straight even when he was tired. She was a stay-at-home mother who organized school events and posted smiling photos on social media captioned with #BlessedLife. But that night, September 28, 2024, Jennifer wasn't smiling. And Matthew wasn't missing. He was already dead. When detectives arrived at the house, Jennifer answered the door barefoot, wearing an oversized sweater and holding a mug of tea. The house was spotless. Too spotless. A faint smell of bleach drifted from the hallway. She spoke quickly, nervously, like she'd been waiting for this visit. She said Matthew had told her he needed time away, that he'd driven off in his truck around midnight. She didn't know where. She hadn't heard from him since. Detective Aaron Callahan later recalled his first impression of her. She was polite, almost overly helpful. But her eyes, she wasn't scared. She was performing. When officers asked to look inside, Jennifer waved her hand toward the living room. "Go ahead," she said. "You won't find anything." And for a moment they didn't. The living room, the kitchen, the kids' bedrooms, all pristine. It wasn't until an officer stepped into the master bedroom that something felt wrong. The carpet looked new, too new compared to the rest of the room. A faint dark outline stretched beneath the bed frame, almost invisible to the naked eye. When the crime scene tech lifted the edge of the rug, the flashlight caught a stain, faint, brown, and circular. The officer touched his radio. "We're going to need luminol." Within minutes, the room lit up in a constellation of blue. Tiny blood particles, hundreds of them, spattered on the walls, the floor, and the blinds. Someone had cleaned, but not well enough. Jennifer stood in the hallway as the glow illuminated the truth. She didn't cry. She didn't even ask what they'd found. She just turned away and whispered, "You're making a mistake." By the next morning, Matthew Johnson was officially classified as a homicide victim. His truck had been found abandoned 4 blocks away. Inside were his wallet, his watch, and, strangely, a box of family photos. But his body was nowhere to be found. Investigators began digging into the couple's history, and what they uncovered painted a disturbing picture. The marriage had been unraveling for months. Jennifer had filed for a protective order against Matthew that was dismissed after the judge found her behavior more aggressive than his. Friends said the couple's arguments had grown violent, though neither ever called police. Then came the revelation that blew the case open. Jennifer wasn't alone. Through Matthew's phone records, detectives found a string of late-night messages from an unknown number. Romantic, suggestive, and written in Jennifer's unmistakable voice. She'd been having an affair with a man she met online, a man who, it turned out, was already cooperating with police. He told them Jennifer had confessed to him days before the disappearance. That she'd said, "I wish he'd just disappear." When he laughed it off, she showed him a gun. The deeper investigators dug, the more contradictions they found. Surveillance footage showed Jennifer buying bleach, trash bags, and carpet cleaner from a Home Depot 2 days before the report. She claimed it was for fall cleaning. But the timestamps told a different story, right after the night Matthew vanished. Her phone's GPS revealed a late-night drive north toward Davis County, lasting 3 hours. She couldn't explain it. "I just needed air," she said. Detectives noticed something else. Her mattress had been delivered on September 24th, brand new, still with the tag. She'd ordered it just 3 days after the murder was believed to have occurred. By this point, police knew. They didn't have a body, but they had enough to sense the gravity of what they were dealing with. And then came the final twist of Chapter 1, The call that changed everything. A man walked into the Cottonwood Heights Police Department carrying a thumb drive. "You need to hear this," he said. He was Jennifer's lover. On that drive was a recorded phone call between them, captured just hours before she reported her husband missing. In the recording, Jennifer's voice was calm, detached, almost serene. She said, "You think I could hurt someone?" He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt. There was a long pause. Then she laughed, a soft, eerie sound that made every detective in the room stop breathing. Because in that moment they realized the truth. Matthew Johnson hadn't vanished. He'd been erased. And the woman who called 911 that night wasn't reporting a disappearance. She was covering up a murder. The lover, the cover-up, and the grave that vanished. If you thought Chapter 1 was dark, what comes next will make your stomach drop. Make sure you're subscribed, because this isn't just a murder story. It's a descent into how far one person will go to erase a life. When the recording hit the desks of the Cottonwood Heights detectives, everything changed. That quiet phone call between Jennifer and her lover wasn't just a confession. It was an emotional autopsy. Her words, her tone, even her laughter, it all told a story no one wanted to believe. Jennifer Gledel, the suburban mother, the PDA volunteer, the smiling face at school drop-offs, had murdered her husband while their children slept a few rooms away. But now investigators faced a brutal problem: no body. Without Matthew's remains, the case was a puzzle with half the pieces missing. And the one person who could lead them to him, Jennifer, was spinning lies faster than they could verify them. Detective Callahan described the next 48 hours as a chess match with a ghost. Jennifer wasn't breaking under pressure. She sat in the interview room, small, controlled, deliberate. Every question met with an answer rehearsed down to the syllable. "When was the last time you saw your husband alive?" "Friday night. He said he needed space." "Did you argue?" "We've been under stress. But we were working on it." "Did he ever talk about harming himself?" She looked up, eyes cold and certain. "He said he wanted to disappear." The detectives exchanged glances. They'd heard this before, from killers who tried to bury their guilt under stories of runaway husbands. Still, they needed proof. Something physical. Something undeniable. And then, out of nowhere, it arrived. A call came from the Utah National Guard's base commander. They'd found Matthew's duffel bag inside his office locker. Everything neatly folded inside. His uniform, his keys, his sidearm. The only thing missing? His 9mm Glock 19X. The exact model Jennifer had shown her lover 2 nights before the murder. The discovery kicked off a full-scale forensic sweep of the Johnson-Gledel home. Crime scene techs pulled up every inch of carpet from the master bedroom. They found faint traces of blood under the floorboards. DNA confirmed it: Matthew Johnson. Then, using luminol, investigators discovered drag marks, a faint trail leading from the bedroom to the garage. On the garage floor, under a layer of paint, they found 2 small but distinct blood smears. Someone had tried to clean, then repaint over them. Detective Callahan followed the evidence like breadcrumbs, each one pulling him deeper into Jennifer's deception. At the same time, Jennifer's lover, whose identity police kept hidden, was cooperating fully. He told investigators everything: how Jennifer had shown him the gun, how she'd come to his house days later covered in bruises, whispering that she'd taken care of it. When asked if he believed her, he said quietly, "At first I thought it was a sick joke. But then she told me she buried him." The GPS data from Jennifer's phone told its own story. Between 3:17 a.m. and 7:04 a.m. on September 21st, she had driven north, out of Salt Lake County, through Weber and into rural Davis County. The phone pinged near an isolated area surrounded by scrubland and farmland. A 4-hour window. A 90-mile route. Plenty of time to dispose of a body. Investigators descended on the area. Cadaver dogs swept fields. Drones scanned from above. For 2 days they found nothing. But then, deep in a ravine near a dry creek bed, they spotted something unnatural. A large plastic storage container, partially submerged, the lid cracked open. When the forensics team pried it open, the smell hit first. Then came the stains, dark, dried, unmistakable. Tests confirmed it: Matthew Johnson's blood. Inside, police also found 2 items that would become key evidence at trial: a shredded bedsheet and a section of carpet padding. It wasn't the grave they were searching for. It was the container that had carried Matthew's body there. Meanwhile, Jennifer's calm facade was beginning to fracture. When detectives presented her with the GPS data and the blood analysis, her composure wavered for the first time. She laughed nervously. "You can make data say whatever you want," she said. Maybe he bled before he left. You don't know. But they did know. The volume of blood found beneath the bed told a different story. A fatal gunshot wound to the head, fired while the victim was lying down. Ballistics matched the Glock 19X. And the box for that very gun, wrapped in a child's onesie, was found hidden in a plastic tote at her parents' house. That's when detectives made their next move. On October 24, 2024, officers executed simultaneous warrants on 2 homes, the Gledhill residence and her parents' house in Draper. Jennifer's parents, Thomas and Rosalie, were arrested for obstruction of justice. Phone data showed Rosalie's device had been factory reset days after the murder. Security footage from a local mattress store showed her purchasing a new king-sized mattress on September 24th, paid for in cash. When asked about it, she said, "Jennifer told us she spilled wine." But when investigators checked the receipt, the delivery address was Jennifer's home, and the date matched the exact day police now believed she'd been cleaning the crime scene. Thomas Gledhill tried to distance himself from it all, but his words betrayed him. During questioning, he said, "I didn't go into the room where the incident happened." The detective stopped writing. "What incident?" he asked. Thomas froze. It was over. With Jennifer and her parents now in custody, the case had become one of the most disturbing family conspiracies Utah had ever seen. But even as evidence stacked higher and higher, there was still one haunting question no one could answer. Where was Matthew Johnson's body? Search teams combed northern Utah, hundreds of volunteers, military friends, and law enforcement working side by side. But each lead ended in frustration. It was as if Jennifer had buried not just her husband, but every trace of him. In her final interview before being charged, Jennifer stared across the table at Detective Callahan and whispered something that still chills him to this day. "You won't find him," she said softly, "because he doesn't want to be found." And with that she smiled. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was satisfaction. The kind that only comes from believing you've won. But Jennifer was wrong. Because the real secret, the one that would destroy everything she thought she'd buried, was still waiting to be uncovered. And when it came out, it would expose the darkest truth of all. The secret in the fire pit. By late October 2024, the world was watching. What began as a missing person case had exploded into a media storm. A suburban nightmare wrapped in family secrets, digital forensics, and betrayal. But behind the headlines, detectives were quietly chasing a lead that would rewrite everything they thought they knew about the night Matthew Johnson died. It started with a smell. 2 hikers in the foothills near Farmington Canyon reported a burned plastic odor coming from an abandoned property about half a mile off the main road. When investigators arrived, they found a rusted metal fire pit, the kind used for burning yard waste. Inside, fragments of melted tarp, blackened metal clasps, and what looked like bone. At first, no one dared say it aloud. But when forensic anthropologists examined the scene, the confirmation came fast. Human remains. Burned. Crushed. Scattered. And near the pit, half buried in the dirt, lay a single object that would change the direction of the investigation forever. A military-style dog tag. The name etched into the metal, Matthew Johnson. Detectives rushed to cross-check the location with Jennifer's phone data. But something was off. Her GPS never pinged anywhere near Farmington Canyon. In fact, on the night of the murder, her phone never left the main highway corridor. So how did Matthew's remains end up 30 miles west of her supposed route? That question cracked open a secret no one saw coming. During a follow-up interview, Jennifer's mother, Rosalie, already facing obstruction charges, finally broke. She wasn't trying to protect Jennifer anymore. She was protecting Thomas, Jennifer's father. Rosalie claimed that after Jennifer confessed to hurting Matt, Thomas had insisted on helping make it right. He loaded a plastic container into his truck and drove off in the middle of the night. When he came back at dawn, his clothes smelled like smoke. For months, Rosalie said nothing. She'd helped repaint the garage, bought the new mattress, even lied to police, because Thomas had told her, "If you love your daughter, you'll keep your mouth shut." When investigators confronted Thomas with Rosalie's statement, he didn't deny it. He simply said, "You can't prove what I burned." But the forensics team could. Analysis of the fire pit debris revealed 2 critical discoveries. First, traces of accelerant, diesel mixed with motor oil, a combination often used in military burn sites to sustain high heat. Second, a melted watch casing, later matched through serial number to the one Matthew had worn in his last known photo. And that wasn't all. Hidden in the ashes was the distorted, heat-warped slide of a Glock 19X, the same weapon Jennifer had shown her lover before the murder. Every piece of evidence screamed one thing: Jennifer had killed Matthew, but her father had destroyed the body. The DA's office expanded the charges. Jennifer, first-degree murder, tampering with evidence and obstruction of justice. Thomas, accessory after the fact, abuse or desecration of a human body. Rosalie, obstruction and tampering. The courtroom was packed when Jennifer made her first appearance. She walked in wearing a pale blue jumpsuit, hair tied back, expression unreadable. When the judge read the charges, she didn't flinch. But as the prosecutor began describing how her father had burned Matthew's remains, Jennifer leaned over to her attorney and whispered something. The court stenographer caught it. He said he'd take care of it. In the weeks that followed, the story took another strange turn. Digital forensics pulled a deleted text thread from Jennifer's old backup account. Messages between her and her father, timestamped 3:42 a.m. on September 21st, the night of the murder. Jennifer, it's done. Thomas, don't panic. Bring the box. Jennifer, what about Mom? Thomas, she doesn't need to know. It was the final nail in the coffin. The family hadn't just covered up a killing, they'd orchestrated a cleanup so methodical it bordered on military precision. And yet, there was one haunting question that lingered in the evidence files. If Thomas helped burn the remains, how did he know where the body was buried in the first place? Jennifer had told police she acted alone. But the timeline, and that message, suggested something far darker. In a final recorded interview before the trial, Detective Callahan confronted her directly. Did your father come to the house that night? Jennifer hesitated. Her composure cracked for just a second. He said he heard the shot, she whispered. He said he came to help me. He said it was the only way. Callahan leaned forward. The only way for what? Jennifer looked up, eyes wet, voice trembling. To make it disappear. But even as the case seemed closed, one final twist was about to surface. One that would shake the entire investigation. Because deep in the forensics lab, a new DNA report had just landed. The burned remains from the fire pit? They weren't a full match to Matthew Johnson. They belonged to two different people.